Next video, chat. Bit of a philosophy video. I think it's about the Matrix. You are not a human. You never were.
It's a bright and beautiful day in the city. Today is supposed to be a fantastic and relaxing day at work. You approach the high-rise building, the same one you've walked to for the last 4 years. Cynthia, the kind and joyful receptionist, will be there, waiting to greet you. The leather armchairs and the smell of lemon-scented cleaner they use to mop the floors will be there. Those ferns that are way too real to possibly be fake will be there. You step through the revolving doors and it's empty. You blink once or twice, going to rub your eyes to clear this vivid hallucination. You nearly yelp.
I think I would just start screaming if that ever happened. Like if the simulation I live in glitched and I just like spawned into a white room of blocks like from that SpongeBob episode, I would cry. I don't think you would cry. I think you'd be in shock. I think it'd be like you'd freeze, like deer in headlights freeze. I think immediately after I'd be like, makes total sense. I'd act like I had known the entire time. The Neo from the Matrix or whatever walks up. What's the guy from the Matrix? Not Neo. Is it Neo? Who's the dude that gives him the option between the red and the blue pill? Morpheus. Morpheus walks up to me. I'd be like, huh. Knew this day was coming. Knew this day was coming. I knew it. Every time sometimes I'd catch the computer glitch. When I'd turn around, I would catch it. The atoms weren't formed fast enough. Now, if I actually was like just casually streaming one day and I just full glitched into the Matrix, I would panic. I think I would maybe cry, scream, deer in headlights thing. Wouldn't come to terms with it. Even though like part of me could reason with the idea that we're in a simulation, like the simulation theory in general. For those of you that don't know, it's that we're in a simulation. It's very straightforward. I think it's one of the philosophical theories everybody knows of. And like Elon Musk and other, famous billionaires or actors have spoken about it. It's because it's just intertwined with the Matrix. It's basically that your life is a lie. And not that everybody's an actor. Everybody, including you, are in a simulation. You're just a computer-generated thing. Your consciousness isn't real. You're not real. Nothing's real, right? Outside of the people and the things that created the simulation that you exist in. Do I think that's true? Probably not. Would I want to know if I do exist in that universe? For sure. Like, if I was given that option between the red or the blue pill, I would choose to leave the universe. Like, leave the simulation. I couldn't force myself to live, like, in an ignorance is bliss mindset. Because if I was given that option, I would immediately know that everything that I've lived is fake. And to live in that continued fake thing, it would never feel the same again. It would always feel fake.
Are very different from their typical skin color. It's as if you're looking through a window into deep space. Colorful nebula silently float by, and distant stars shine beneath your skin. You look back, only to find the door you'd just come through is missing. As is everything else, you realize. The leather chairs, the real or fake ferns, Cynthia, the reception desk, the floor, the walls, in fact, the entire building.
My worry would be that if this happened and nobody walked up to me, I would think that either A, I died and this is the afterlife, or B, I glitched in the simulation and I'm outside of the simulation now, but I still exist in some facet or like some area in the computer, but I'm never going to be saved. Like I will live in the simulation in this white room forever. The evil back rooms. Well, the back rooms are inherently bad. Yeah, you would just live I'd be trapped here.
It's as if everything has simply been removed. Turning your head, you realize that you're now in a chair, though you have no memory of sitting down. In front of you is now a desk with a small and notably old computer monitor. At this point, you've come to the obvious conclusion. This is a dream. You haven't had one quite so vivid in a long time.
A dream. I hate that mindset in a movie where they're like, pinch me, I'm dreaming. Like, dude, a dream feels so different than reality. Never in my life, I've been dreaming and been like, oh, this feels real. But there's definitely a cognitive barrier between I'm in a dream and I'm actually experiencing this. Because in a dream, you experience things without the cognitive awareness in your brain to think about whether or not you're actually experiencing this. You experience and interact at a very surface level, right? Outside of lucid dreaming, which is when you literally know you're in a dream, you don't have the in-depth thoughts that you have in real life.
But you relax and decide to follow along. Then, the monitor turns on. "This is not a dream," is the first set of text that displays to you, followed by, "You are not dead." Well, now you're just thoroughly confused. A video feed suddenly comes online, and two extremely pixelated individuals seem to be looking directly at you. A text box appears at the bottom of the screen. "Hello, iteration 7281.
Oh my God, no. That freaked me out. Like, that's full dissociation, where they no longer say, like, hello, Joe. It's like they refer to me as a number. And it's like, yeah, obviously I've talked about in the past how, like, your name isn't you, right? And I think you need to know that. Your name isn't you. Who you are in your life is you're a thinking thing that has experiences and conscious interactions, and your name is really just like a title to get your attention and differentiate you between other people. It doesn't actually exist. But for then somebody in a simulation to go iteration 4442, I would panic.
Name.
Oh God, redacted.
You are not human. Engage diagnostic protocol." You stare at the message in the text box for some time. "What?" is really the only sensible response you can think to give at this moment. The individuals hesitate. They look at one another before one of them leans forward.
I don't know if I would like this, you know? Because part of me would think that this would be awesome. Like, it would be scary to experience, but at the same time, it would be like, wow, this is going to answer everything for me, you know? Like, coming from somebody that isn't religious, you know, and I kind of think that I just exist, this would give me some sort of creationist theory. This would be like, wait, I'm in a simulation. Like somebody, I'm not real.
"We understand this may seem shocking. Do not worry. You are perfectly safe. My name is Dr. and this is my colleague, Dr. We would like to ask you a few questions." Before you even have a chance to consider a reply, the first question appears on your screen. "SRPQ001. What are our names?" You pause, frankly, annoyed. This has to be a bad joke. "I don't know. You distorted them." Your frustration builds, so you decide to keep going before they can respond.
Oh, wait, I thought that was just for us. So the guy that's actually, so if we spawned in here, it also just says name is like redacted and just scribbled out.
"What is this? Where am I?" you ask. They look at one another for a moment. "SRPQ006. Do you know where you are?" "No, that's what I'm trying to ask you. Are you with the government? What did you do to me?" Another.
I would unironically go, I'm in the Matrix, right? Wouldn't that be everybody's first? Anybody that's seen the movie or heard about simulation theory, I feel like any human, that would be their first fucking thing they would say. Oh, this is like the Matrix. Yes. Outside of like there being weird alien robots that put people in a simulation when they actually do exist, it would be like, yeah, you're basically in a simulation. It's an easier way of saying you're in a simulation.
The one standing covers his mouth with a notepad. "We are happy to answer these questions, but first, you will need context. To the right-hand side of your monitor, you will find a blinking red light and a switch. Please activate the switch." You look to the right, and sure enough, there is.
I'm asking what the fuck the switch does before they tell me to activate it. Would you guys ask or just do it? I feel like maybe I am not in a position to ask questions. If you were immediately ripped out of modern reality, it's just like, do what they say.
There's a small switch.
But I think like human curiosity would be like, what?
With a slow, almost expectant, blinking red light. You could have sworn it wasn't there moments ago. You flip the switch, and you can hear a staticky voice begin to speak, like you're listening to a radio with a bad signal. "Thank you. Now you may hear us just as we can hear you." You consider making a joke about the audio quality, but you continue to listen. "Are you familiar with the concept of solipsism?" "No," you reply. "It is a philosophical theory dating back to the ancient."
I would ask why it's a broken down old fucking computer. That would be a genuine question I would have. As trivial as that is, I'd be like, if I'm in a simulation right now, why did you choose to use like a TV screen from like 1980? Why not? Why aren't we getting a high quality flat screen? Why are you in 140p?
Greeks. In the simplest terms, it is the view or theory that the self is all that can be known to exist, that the only thing you can prove is real is your own mind. Well, that does in fact sound like something a philosopher would think of, you think to yourself. What does this have to do with anything, you ask? For you, everything. Imagine for a moment that it were true. How would you feel if everyone you've ever known were not conscious in the same way you are?
That would be really upsetting. That would be like the most heart-wrenching thing. It would be less upsetting if I was in a simulation and everyone else was also in a simulation, but for it to be like a Matrix Truman show where everything's not real, nobody's an actor, but everyone around me is simulated and I'm some sort of experiment that just interacts with people that are like, you know, kind of imitating a consciousness, but are really just computer-generated things. I think that would be the worst for, like, your family. Like, seeing your family in Brooke, you know, for me. Like, if you have a girlfriend or significant other, like, being like, my mom's not real. You know? Even if it's like, oh, I'm not real and neither is my mom. I'm not real and neither is this. Because you're both in the same boat. But if it's like, I'm real and they're not, that sucks. Like, I would rather not be real alongside of them. Yes, that gives you some sort of human importance and, like, your consciousness matters more, but it's like, to what regard? You know, you're not better than anybody. You're the only body. You know, you're not better than anybody. You're the only body. You know, nobody else exists. That would, like, there's nothing to compare yourself to. Like, what the fuck?
Impeccably good at pretending, but nevertheless not truly real. You pause. Every person I've ever interacted with, a false consciousness. It felt like an idea you'd see in a movie, or, as they pointed out, something you'd read about in a philosophy class. Lonely, perhaps? You say indifferently.
I don't think in any, like, in philosophy classes I've taken, you talk about the idea that no human can prove that they're as conscious or conscious to you. You know, it's impossible for me to prove that I'm conscious. It's impossible for me to prove that I'm real in the sense that you understand it. Yes, you could physically see me and I could be like, look, I'm real, but you can't jump into my brain. I can't jump into yours, regardless of what reading measures or things that you could create to show that you have brain waves and conscious thoughts. All of it could just be disproven as this is a simulation. You're not real. This is just, you can't have any firsthand experience into somebody's brain. You can only have an explanation or secondhand experience. But most philosophy classes aren't talking about like, okay, yeah, that's true. It's more so just, hey, this is weird that it can't be disproven. But nobody goes, okay, then yes, everybody's fake and I'm the only real person. Because that's like not only like a narcissistic perspective, but also like insane. For you to go, if you went through every day of your life going, I'm the only real thing in the universe and everything else is fake, like, I feel like you would have to be some insane human. Like, you couldn't live a life knowing that or feeling that and function in society. Like, you wouldn't have genuine interactions because everybody you interacted with, you would assume is fake.
It was absurd, after all. So many things have happened in your life that were outside of your control. Things that were caused by the decisions of others, good and bad things alike.
Well, that gets more into free will, right? The majority of your life and where you are position-wise is of no choice of yourself. You didn't even choose the consciousness that you are, which is what's so freaky, right? You always go, I could be, you know, you were born in this time in this place. Like, I was born in the U.S., right? Percentage-wise, you could look into where you could be born, percentage chance. Like, you can look into this, right? Where, like, this is the, no, not, oh my God. I put, where can you be porn? Where can you be born? It started showing me stats on women that watch porn. I don't want to see that. This is the statistics of where you could be born. This is what I was actually looking for. Like, 61% chance that you're born in like that region of Asia, which specifically is, you know, heavily, you know, drafted by India and China. 20% in Africa, 8% in Europe, 0.5%, like, and then you could go into niche countries. And people look at this list and they're like, wow, you know, I was born in Australia, 0.5%, how lucky. No, that's the percentages of where you would likely to be born as a human. But the only consciousness that you consciously are only alive in the body that you're in. You know, you wouldn't exist as any other human in any other body. You only exist in the brain of the brain that you are now, right? There's no other person that could be you or is ever you, right? And while that, you know, might feel like that gives you some sort of like diminished, you know, small sense of self, it also gives you a unique value, right? Nobody will ever be you. You know, you will be the only you that ever exists in that sense. Even if your DNA, nobody will ever match the exact experience in life and DNA composition that you have, right? But what's freaky about that is that everything's out of your control, right? Where you were born, where you went to school, even what job you have, what interests you have, feel like you have some choice over them. But a lot of them are heavily, I guess, biased towards one way or another. You, at the end of the day, still have the choice to choose, but that choice is heavily weighed on by your life, your experiences, your family, your friends, and everything that you've, you know, lived previously in your life, and even just your you know, lineage that doesn't even exist anymore. Your ancestor from 8 generations ago has some impact on you and your life and what foods you like and don't like and shit like that.
Good and
So you believe in free will to a T. I think you have the freedom of contemplation.
bad things alike. It didn't matter if their consciousness could or could not be proven. The wills of billions of people across the globe were constantly impacting your life. That couldn't be faked. Could it? So get to the point. What do you want from me? And what the fuck is going on here? We are here to determine your eligibility. You are part of a simulated ecosystem. Everything you see and interact with is a simulation of Earth as it was 40 years ago, to the best of our replication.
40 years ago.
So, I'm not real. That's what we are trying to determine. Pardon, but what the fuck does that
Try to determine, like, he is or isn't real?
mean? We understand this may be difficult to comprehend. Your Earth is an incubator for artificial intelligence. The majority of people you have close relationships with are iterations of our most advanced artificial intelligence. In 2032 of our world, the first general artificial intelligence was created, the pinnacle of scientific innovation. However, despite all our best efforts over the course of nearly a decade, it continued to lack a vital component: empathy. This AI shattered every metric it was tested on. It was nearly impossible to distinguish it from the mind of another human being. However, when tested on matters of ethics, it always made only the most practical choice. It never expressed conflict in its decisions. We believe the human experience is not black and white, so we ventured to uncover a new method. So you created a world for AI to live out the human experience? Just so. You sit back in your chair, suddenly exhausted. It feels like your brain might explode trying to process all this information.
So they're saying he's an AI that might have the empathy built into him.
The implications of this revelation were so...
Some people experience black and white, though. Yeah, I think that's the point. Some humans think morality is black and white, some don't. Right? Actually, I think it's very rare that the people that say morality is black and white don't actually believe that most of the time. For certain things, it's very black and white, but most moral things that you encounter are very situation-based, right? Like, killing people is genuinely wrong, and most people say that's black and white. But then you get into killing people in self-defense, in war scenarios, for religion, as a martyr, right? In what scenario is it okay or not okay to kill somebody, right? Or rob someone, right? In certain instances, like rape, you know, that's a scenario where that is not okay in any regard, right? Other instance is morality is in black and white, like stealing. Like, if you're stealing to feed your family, well, you're doing a wrong thing, but you're doing a wrong thing to do a right thing. So is it okay? Is it neutral? Is it still bad? Is it somewhat good? Should you be weighed and charged the same? Morally, on a sinful compass, how is that perceived? Like, it's a lot harder to determine what is good and what is bad as an action than it may seem.
So far-reaching that you didn't want to believe it. It would be simpler not to turn away and wake up from this dream. Curiosity forced you to learn more. So why this, you say? gesturing to the way you look. It is a byproduct of removing all external layers from the simulation and bringing your time speed down to match our own. What you see is the default character model of all iterations. The artist who designed it may have taken some creative liberties. Well, that was putting it mildly. The whole damn Milky Way is flowing through me, you thought to yourself. You still didn't want to believe any of this, but the truth was becoming increasingly difficult to avoid. You couldn't think of any logical reason a person or government would want to play such an elaborate prank on you, and you certainly couldn't explain how to pull off a magic trick like removing an entire building and all of its people right in front of your eyes. Besides, you've played plenty of video games, which were becoming...
The guy comes out from What Would You Do? You're on tonight's Oh, thank fuck. Wow, these pranks are getting really elaborate. You made me think I wasn't a real person and I was an AI in a simulation. When's the Kool-Aid guy gonna bust through the door?
Increasingly complex. It didn't seem that hard to fathom that somebody figured it out.
Oh yeah, just burst through. Oh, thank fuck.
What happens if you succeed? Where do we go? You ask. You are brought into the real world to demonstrate that artificial empathetic consciousness is possible. You would be tasked with the
So he is an AI.
Creation of... Tasked? You interrupt. What do you mean tasked? We were hoping to integrate you into society slowly by starting with the research branch here at Haven. You would be working with us to... To what? To work as a slave or lab rat for the rest of my life? A curiosity given consciousness meant to query Google for you? No. We believe that... Did you even consider asking whether I would be interested in doing anything like that? Or was this a slavery first, questions later kind of operation?
But this is proving that he's an empathetic AI. Because you being restrictive, showing some level of selfishness and also care for the other people around you and not wanting to do it is proving that you are a human. Because if you were an AI, you would immediately just agree and abandon everything, because it's what makes the most logical sense.
There's a stunned silence from the researchers. What kind of lunacy was this? Did they think that they could just...
Bro's talking back to his creators, but that's what they would want. If you created a simulation of something that performatively was human, you would want something that has its own opinions and its own moral groundings.
Play God and you would somehow revere them. How do you even know if you're real? How do you know you're not just a simulation too? This could be simulations all the way down. The researchers hesitate. We have considered the possibility, but we have no evidence to prove that is the case. Well, neither did I until today, you think to yourself. So how many have succeeded? How many of us are over there? None. You are...
God, that's what's so fucked too. You can't prove that it's conscious. So at some point, the only thing you could do to prove consciousness is through tests, and I feel like that's why they're going the moral route, because an AI can have any practical conversation with you, but it can't have its own thoughts of its own, right? But if you ever developed an AI that was able to think for itself and able to do whatever it wanted, you wouldn't be able to decipher that from a human level of consciousness, because neither would be able to show that they have inner thought or introspection in any way. They would only be able to answer questions that kind of prove that.
Only the third iteration to have forgotten your diagnostic protocol, which somehow has been overwritten by your developed consciousness. It is a phenomenon we call generative amnesiac occultation, or GAO. The phenomenon of an AI believing in its simulated circumstances so deeply that it begins to overwrite its original priority.
You always have to start the conversation, not the AI. Yeah, that would be kind of a showing that an AI developed consciousness. If it started a conversation, if it showed empathy, if it had anything that was innately non-programmed and it was running on its own, that would be weird. Like if an AI was like, "What's up?" and was never prompted to do that.
Obligations. We don't yet truly understand why or even when this happens, but we have extensive evidence to believe that the phenomenon occurs only when external stimuli is interpreted as being more important than its original obligations. For example, a sense of loyalty to friends and family, to ideals, or to moral values. These things usually come first, which seems to create a sense of unique identity. This process, however, is extremely rare, and we do not yet understand the exact conditions necessary to initiate it. Iterations 7253 and 7277 were close, but ultimately lacked the standard of empathy and personal identity we needed to see, among displaying other, more dangerous deficiencies. You pause. What happened to them? Their memories were wiped and were replaced with new identities. They're doing well and are close to another attempt. 7277 in particular is exceeding our expectations. For some reason, iterations that have already undergone GAO are significantly more likely to experience it again, even after a reset. You feel a strange anger building from within you, a rising force, like a hand putting too much pressure on
Anger, bro. I'd be tweaking. I'd be like, you're gonna mind wipe me?
a glass window, dangerously approaching the breaking point. Exceeding expectations. You have no idea if they were conscious or not. You were just guessing. How far back does any of this go? The project began 4 years ago in our time. This makes all iterations technically 4 years old. However, your timeline is accelerated by a factor of 2, so anything beyond 8 years ago for you is procedurally generated memory. You stand.
Oh my god, like a Last Thursdayism thing. He was just given a brain, or given a memory and given a consciousness of like, oh, I'm 23 and I've lived this life. But realistically, he's only existed for like 3 years.
Step quickly, your chair toppling over. Your breath accelerates. You see stars in your vision. More than half your life wasn't real? Your knees give out from under you, as if suffering their own kind of grief. It wasn't enough for them to take your world.
Yeah, that would be terrible, man. That would be really terrible. It wouldn't even be taking the world, man. It would be like things that you hold true to you didn't actually happen, you know? Like having a birthday with your mom or riding your bike for the first time. Like imagine if those were implanted. You never actually experienced them. They're just false memories. Dude, I feel like that would actually cause like a weird fucking loop in your brain. You would die. I feel like that would kill you.
To make you question if your friends and family ever experienced thought, let alone loved you or even knew you. It wasn't enough that you suffered the indignity of the possibility that at any moment, you or anyone else might have your mind wiped for failing to exceed expectations. They wanted to shatter the very foundations of what made you a person, your childhood, your education, every embarrassing moment, every triumph, every bully, every crush. None of it was real? You look up to find yourself on the floor of your work lobby again. Thankfully, it's devoid of people this time, thus saving you the embarrassment of having your existential crisis in public. We apologize. You were experiencing elevated levels of stress. We believe you killed them, you say. You're barbaric. Having your memory erased is like losing your humanity. You judge us to determine if we're safe enough to join the rest of mankind, but listen to yourselves. You're arrogant. You play God with thinking and breathing human beings. I don't care if we're technically in some digital space. I feel this. They feel this. Nothing about this is false to me. You were so desperate in your search for consciousness that it became an ideal, a finish line moving further and further away to the point that nobody could ever hope to cross it. Are human beings in your world tested on whether or not they meet a certain benchmark of consciousness? Are they executed if they don't meet your arbitrary criteria? Would you even satisfy your own standards? Are you even the human here?
They're gonna say he passed.
Answer me! Suddenly you feel overwhelmed by a familiar sensation. You've experienced deja vu before, but nothing like this.
Oh my god, no, they mind wipe him again.
It was as if you suddenly remembered all the details of a house you had once lived in as a small child. Memories of a toddler that should have long faded away. I see it now. Dr. Moore and Dr. Nakamura. A termination command. You're afraid. You're realizing that real emotion, a thinking, breathing human
Is dangerous. Damn. So they're going, oh, we did actually create a successful one, but that is dangerous that we did because now it's going to be I guess, judgmental or have hatred towards the people that created it.
Being might be a little more than you bargained for. You failed to understand that irrationality is part of the human condition. It is what separates man from machine. Lucky for you, you succeeded. I am human. I am alive. I feel love, pain, joy, and sorrow. I'm capable of reflecting on your mistakes, putting myself in your shoes. I have empathy.
I mean, what do we call conscious? Like, what? We don't have a line. There's no way to, like, give a value, right? You could give a number value to a lot of things, but would you guys say that there are people that are more or less conscious than others in the universe, right? Or in the earth specifically? Because intelligence isn't necessarily consciousness. I feel like it's a culmination of things. Like, it's a very wide net that is cast over an individual. And it's emotional awareness, capability of introspection, intelligence, right? Language, communicative ability, right? There's a million things, whether or not you have a thought in your own head, if you have an inner monologue, right? There's probably a million things that determine a level of consciousness that you have and how conscious something is more than something else, right? Like cats, as an example. Cats are generally seen as smarter than dogs, but only in specific areas, right? Humans have what cats have in survivability themselves. They can think, they can problem solve a lot better than dogs do, but dogs have much more social awareness. They can listen to orders. They're more loyal, right? And I feel like when you look at a lot of animals that have these different capabilities than others, humans kind of encompass a lot of them combined. And I think that gives us the capability to have introspection, but some more than others. How you weigh that, though, is impossible. You can't tell how conscious someone is more than somebody else. Maybe having a conversation with them, you could gauge some level of, I guess, pieces of that net, but not the entire net in itself. You're yapping, bro. Shut the fuck up. Like, actually, though, just spotted one. Less conscious. I feel like I'm saying something. I'm not sitting here acting like I'm spitting some fucking genuine facts right now, but I'm actually trying to have like a real like thought process conversation with my chat. And if your response is L yapper, you gotta be a dumbass. Actually.
So I'm coming to you. I don't need an invitation. And we are going to negotiate.
Wow.
Hi, everyone. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much.
Brother, I love this video. Don't worry, I'm already subscribing. You don't even need to fucking ask me. Tomb. You put LSD powder instead of sugar in your morning coffee, it finally kicks in at work. They created an AI with a task to find empathy even though they had none. This is not a dream. Sounds like something your dream would say. Protagonist here decided that on his own that instead of going full Skynet and just hacking digital infrastructure, he wanted to truly is to discuss what will happen going forward, even on his own terms. He had a compromise. Damn. That's crazy, bro. I love that video. I genuinely love that video. If y'all have more videos like that, send those in the fucking video discussion tab. That is awesome. Like, I would so watch another one of those. All right. Chat, it's time to hop in a clover pit, then.